Hey there, welcome back to Spirit of a Handyman. Today we're going to look at how to feather in new hardwood flooring into existing hardwood flooring. Let's check that out.
He's got the spirit of a handyman. A handyman.
So the situation is that this customer has hardwood that's in the dining room, living room, and then also here in the front room, and wants to continue all of that in through the kitchen. So I've currently removed those. I'm gonna feather those into here, run that along this way, and then make that contiguous right there. So here's what we've done so far. To remove these, there's a couple ways to do it. One is to cut the boards using your circular saw or whatever. Make sure you set the depth so that you're not going through the subfloor, but just through the hardwood. And then make sure you get a nice clean cut using an oscillating tool, multi-tool, something like that. Don't hit the board that you still want to keep there, but make sure you get a nice clean cut. Then that piece will just pry up. There's nothing holding it, because usually you just nail these to the tongue side of the board. So this piece is now free floating. There just was a little bit of wood that I didn't cut there at the end, but that just snapped off. Now, once you get the middle piece out, then the piece over on the groove side will slide right out, no problem. That leaves the side that was nailed down. That's going to be a little bit harder to get out, but you can just pry it up with a pry bar, and that should come out without too much of a fight. It does tend to leave a nail or staple or whatever behind in the wood, and so you have to use a screwdriver or some pliers or whatever to pull that out. And that comes out with relative ease. And there you go. Now you've got an opening that you can snap in your new board. But my favorite method for doing it is this. You actually take a chisel, something with a nice sharp straight edge, and hammer that down, work it just to get a little gap in the wood, and then you can take a small pry bar of some type, start to pry on it, and that gives you a little bit of separation between the boards. Even if they're nailed in, you'll get a lot of resistance, but you can start to separate it, and then you just keep using a bigger and bigger pry bar, chisel, anything, and just keep working that board open. And you have to be careful with the board that you're prying against, so I'm always using as broad a surface area as possible when doing this. But what I found is it makes a lot less mess to do it this way instead of cutting out the other board. And effectively, it takes about the same amount of time, whether you're hammering it out or cutting the other one out. So you can kind of choose which way you want to do it. But basically, putting the new board in is this exact same method reversed. So once you pry it out, then you end up bopping the other one back into place using this same method. So I've done that. Left these because they still have the groove side on them. So now we're just going to run a couple over here. So I've chalked a line that runs even with this. That'll run all the way down there. A little oddity is that these two subfloors are just slightly different. So right where the hardwood ends close to here, I'm shimming that up. For these boards over here, the longer the board, the more that will naturally make that transition, but these shims will help that transition happen. So that'll go nice and smooth across there. It won't really be noticeable. That's already happening right here. That's the higher subfloor than here. So we're basically just doing the same thing, except this way it's running uphill, and that way it's kind of running off to the side. So time to start making our first line. Then we're just gonna snap them all across and finish that up. Over here, this board right here, you can barely tell that's just a little bit narrower than these ones over here. So the way that I did it is I chalked a line from here to here. You still see that line there. And then I went back from that line and ended up with about this much, about, I don't know, 3/4 of an inch, half an inch of excess. So a full plank was not going to fit in here. So perhaps in hindsight, build out from here and then like chalk a line from there to there. That probably would have been a better solution. But here's what I ended up with. I cut off the tongue here. So this is just a flush side, and then top nailed into these boards to hold them down. I top nailed there and there. Top nailing is just where you sink a nail in on the top part of the board. And you know, nobody's ever gonna notice that transition. So that's how I did that one. And then I just need to finish in all the rest of this space, and this flooring is gonna look beautiful. So there you go, that's how I feathered in this new hardwood floor into the existing stuff. Hopefully this video empowers you to get out there and do it yourself. If I can do this on my first try, then you can do it on your first try. If you're a pro and you've got some tips for all of us new beginners, leave those down below in the comment section. In the meantime, click that subscribe button and we'll see you next time for Spirit of a Handyman.
He's got the spirit of a handyman.